When analyzing your data, you need to ensure accuracy and reliability. But data sets often contain errors that lead to inaccurate results. Using Power Query, you can fix many common dataset errors. In this video, you'll learn how to identify common types of errors and discover how best to fix them using Power Query in Power BI. AdventureWorks is preparing to analyze its latest sales data worksheet. However, there are several errors in this dataset, like null values, duplicate rows, and inconsistent data types. These errors must be resolved before analysis. Let's take a few moments to help AdventureWorks fix these errors using Power Query. First, you must import the dataset to transform. In this case, it's the AdventureWorks sales dataset. On the Home tab, select Get Data and choose Text CSV for the file type. Browse to the location of your dataset and select Open to import. Then select Load to load the data. Next, select Transform Data in Power BI Desktop. The Transform Data button is in the Home tab in the Queries group of functions. The button is positioned to the right of the Recent Sources button. The sales data is loaded into Power Query. It shows a list of bicycle products and key information about each product, like name, price, weight, category, and description. However, several of these rows contain null or missing values. These errors need to be resolved before the data can be analyzed. To systematically identify missing or null values, select the drop-down arrow in the column header for the variable you're examining. This opens a filter menu used to filter the data in the column based on specific criteria. The filter menu contains options like empty or null. Available options depend on the data type of the column. Empty refers to blank cells in text columns. Null refers to missing values in numeric or date columns. Select the appropriate option to filter and display rows that contain missing or null values in the selected column. Inspect the data table in the editor and identify any rows with missing or null values. In this dataset, 2 rows contain missing values. Row 16 and row 17 have a missing value in the product subcategory column. Now that you've identified the values, you can resolve them. There are 3 ways to resolve missing values. You can replace them with default values, replace them with values from another column, or remove the rows containing missing values. For AdventureWorks, the best approach is to replace its missing values with default values. Logical default values can represent the missing data without distorting the analysis or visualizations. First, in the ribbon at the top of the editor, select the Transform tab. You use this tab to access the tools and functions for modifying and transforming the data. Next, select the Replace Values button. Then select Replace Values from the drop-down menu. You use this option to replace specific values in a column with a new value. In this case, you can replace all null or missing values. A Replace Values dialog box appears on screen. It has a text box labeled Value to Find, where you specify the value you want Power Query to identify and replace. The aim is to find missing or null values in the product subcategory column. So in the Value to Find box, you can write null. Below the Value to Find box, there's another text box labeled Replace With. This is where you type the new value you want to replace the missing or null values with. The new value should be consistent with the column's data type, which is text. So, let's replace the missing values in the product subcategory with the text value trail, which represents the default category for trail bikes. Finally, select OK to confirm and make the change. When you select the OK button in the Replace Values dialog box, Power Query scans the sheet for the values you instructed it to identify. It then replaces each instance of these values based on the criteria you specified in the Replace With box. You can review a history of all data transformation operations you've applied to the dataset by selecting the pane called Applied Steps on the right-hand side of the Power Query Editor window. AdventureWorks has fixed the null values in its dataset, but there are still duplicate rows errors present. The entries in rows 22 to 24 are duplicates of other records in the sheet, and identical records also exist in rows 25 to 27. Let's help AdventureWorks resolve these errors. On the Home tab, access the data manipulation functions. From these functions, select the Remove Rows option and a drop-down menu appears. Select Remove Duplicates from the options. Power Query analyzes the dataset and finds rows that have identical values in the selected columns. It then removes all but one instance of each group of duplicates. That's good progress. Just one final error left in the dataset: inconsistent data types in the form of order dates. Let's fix this final error. The inconsistent data is in the column Order Date. Select the column header to select and apply changes to the entire column. Next, select the Transform tab to access the data modification options. Select the Data Type button. Then select the Date data type from the drop-down menu. This converts all values in the column to the selected data type, meaning all data types in the column are now consistent. Thanks to your help, AdventureWorks has removed all errors from its dataset. It can now perform data analysis without the risk of producing inaccurate results. You should now understand how to identify common errors in datasets, like missing or null values, duplicate rows, and inconsistent data types. You should also be able to resolve these issues using the tools available in Power Query. Identifying and resolving these errors is essential for making sure your analysis runs on accurate, reliable, and high-quality data.